since you left me alone. I worried so, my little darling. Come on. I worried so since you've gone. Woo.
Hello, this is Chuck from Above the Basement, Boston Music and Conversation. Cellist, educator, innovator, and pioneer, Mike Block breaks the mold and the norms. He plays, sings, and creates percussion with what is normally imagined as an orchestral instrument while he moves around the stage with his strapped-on cello. He surprises you with music usually reserved for other instruments. His takes on classical, folk, and pop songs are unique, and his own compositions invigorated the crowd at Indian Hill Music. This is another episode for our ConcertCast series, Mike Block Live at Indian Hill Music, where we had a great conversation with Mike Block in front of a live, sold-out crowd, followed by a 2-set performance that we will publish as a separate episode. Mike is a member of the Silk Road Ensemble, founded by Yo-Yo Ma, who called Mike the ideal musician of the 21st century. As you will hear from our conversation and the concert that followed, Mike is committed to inspiring musicians and connecting communities through music. So here is our conversation with Mike Block, recorded at Indian Hill Music in Littleton, Massachusetts. Everybody hear me okay? Is that too loud? All right, perfect. Hello. All right, so all those things on your seats and the tables are not coasters. Those are stickers to a podcast that my name is Chuck Clow, and this is Ronnie Hirschberg. We have a podcast called Above the Basement. What we're going to do tonight, we have Mike Block who's going to join us on stage, and we're going to do a live podcast with you. So you're welcome to hoot and holler if you want. It's not going to be published live. It's not going to be published like right now. I'm going to go home, edit out all the dumb things that Ron says, and then we'll publish it in a week or so. But we're excited to be here for you. And before Mike comes on, Ron is going to tell you a little bit about him.
Thank you, Chuck. You're probably not here because you heard of us, and that's fine. And we are so excited because the reason why we're here is the same reason you're here, is because we're going to see Mike Block, and we're going to listen to Mike Block, and we're really privileged to have him. Mike is he's a cellist, but a very innovative cellist in many ways, and has had sort of a multi-genre experience over the last 10 years or more. Absolutely believes in the next generation, and he taught the kids today. We're going to have a great night tonight, hear more music, hear more stories. But he is quite an amazing performer and person, and we want to get to know him more, so come on up, Mike Block.
Yeah.
Somerville man, right?
Yeah, I've been living in the area for 6 years now. I am so happy to have made it out of New York.
Yeah. Woo. Nice. But you came east over many years, though.
I move east every couple of years. I grew up in Kansas City, college in Cleveland, graduate school in New York City, and now human life in New England. Yeah.
Human life.
Yeah.
I like that. One of the first things I wanted to talk to you about, I don't know if do you know a guy named Joe Kwan?
Cellist in the Avid Brothers?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So
I don't know him personally.
So Joe Kwan is a cellist for the Avid Brothers, and he runs around stage holding his cello up here by his face and running around with it. And I've never seen anybody do something like that. And as you will soon see, if you haven't seen already, this is something that Mike does. And I wonder if you could talk about how that started being something that you do.
Sure. Well, how many people out there love the cello? Okay. Well, then luckily I'm in the right room. So cello is traditionally played seated. It's got a fascinating precedent of people trying to stand with the cello way back in like the late 1700s, even early 1800s. There's paintings of cellists, using sashes to carry it while standing. But essentially it's been played seated for hundreds of years. But there's a handful of cellists, here and there that have tried to, hold it under our neck, which I think is kind of what Joey Kwan does. And, a lot of us that have ventured out into non-classical styles have really felt this need to get out of our chair and stop looking up at everybody else on stage. So I guess 6 years ago at this point, I designed a cello strap that needed to exist. So yeah, I stand while playing, and it really sets me free. I feel free on the inside and the outside when I can move when I perform. And so yeah, it's not necessarily something that changes the sound of what I do, but it changes how I feel when I play.
How does it make you feel free on the inside?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, apart from this podcast, usually when people speak in front of a crowd, we're standing. Politicians don't go around sitting when they make speeches. And so just this idea of addressing a large room and really being able to fill the space and kind of feel confident, as a speech giver. Of course, everybody stands. And it wasn't until I experienced standing while playing cello, it actually hit me how different it feels as a performer to feel like I can kind of, lean into the room, so to speak.
So when you stand, you have something very innovative that I think we're going to be really happy to hear tonight and see, is that you sing while you play, which is something a lot of cellists don't do. So has the block strap, has you being freed physically, helped you with that process as well, with the duality of singing?
I think so. I've been singing and playing cello for maybe 14, 15 years, and I really enjoy it. I'll get to share a number of songs with you all tonight, both original and traditional and covers. And I teach at Berkeley on Mondays, and I was having a lesson with one of the vocal teachers, and he was appreciating the obvious, like there's a physical preference to standing for singers as well, for diaphragm support and stuff. So I'm sure it's helped, but essentially I was going to do it anyway.
There's an amazing video. If you go to MikeBlockmusic.com.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yeah, I did my homework. If you go to MikeBlockmusic.com, he's got some amazing videos there. Now, one of the unusual things you'll hear from his music, people think cello, people think orchestral music. Well, he certainly can play that and has. He's got a very, very different kind of music in there. And one of the videos that I really liked was the Sea of Love, where you use the cello, not just the bow and the strings, but you use the whole being of the cello. You're banging on it, you're moving around with it, and I guess this kind of can run in with the theme of you actually holding it up and walking around with it. You're using the whole body of the cello and your whole body as the instrument, which I really liked. Because a lot of people don't think, it's just the bow against the strings, but really it's the whole instrument. You're making the whole instrument say something.
Yeah, well, I think, every instrument has traditional expectations, and I think I've always been excited by what is it that most people aren't doing. And so with cello, there's a whole world of music that, obviously, this is a smart room. We all know that cello is the greatest instrument ever created. That's not even really up for debate, so I'm not going to allow for feedback at this moment. But what's great is that cello is a particularly versatile instrument. I can play low and accompany other people. I can play high and I can lead. I can play melodically, but I can also play rhythmically. As luck would have it, those are some of the primary roles we have in music. And so finding ways to use this tool in a number of styles has been kind of a big professional journey for me, artistic journey, where I happen to play the cello. So I grew up in Kansas, full confession. I grew up in Kansas.
It's okay.
I grew up playing cello, which is an Italian instrument, and I grew up playing music from Germany and France. Like, that seems pretty arbitrary, actually. When you look at it as an alien, like, why was a young boy in Kansas playing an Italian instrument with Brazilian wood for a bow and German music as its primary thing? So in my head, like, playing classical cello is as arbitrary as playing Brazilian music or playing classical Hindustani Indian music. And once that clicked for me, I realized that cello is a tool that I know very well, but the whole world of music is really out there to explore. And so I'm trying to use this tool as a way to connect with all of these communities, other than the one that I started with.
How arbitrary was it as a kid?
Well, my parents are classical musicians, so it's probably not that arbitrary. But my story still stands.
But as far as you gravitating to the cello itself,
Yeah.
as opposed to the violin.
Yeah, so I have two siblings, and we all started on Suzuki violin. And my earliest moment of breaking away from the herd was to switch from violin to the cello, so that I could be different from my siblings. Ironically, one of the big reasons I switched to cello was so I could sit down when I practice. But so I did choose cello, but I think, as any 8-year-old growing up playing violin, my scope of options was not exactly global, but I was very excited by the sound of the cello, and again, the opportunity to sit down.
Do you make a Mike Block mini strap?
It's a one-size-fits-all product, and you can
do kids ever use the strap?
Yeah. If you or someone you love is a cellist, you can send them to cellostrap.com, and you will learn more than you ever needed to know about cello straps.
Even if you don't play a cello, I recommend this strap.
It looks great.
Has anybody here sung in the bathroom before? I was very intrigued by the acoustics of many bathrooms, specifically the great Johannes Bach in the bathroom. And then all of a sudden I saw your website and I said, oh my God, this guy he has my dream.
Well, that was your dream?
Your dream?
I'm so
Tell
sorry.
me, how did it happen, Mike? Tell us.
Well,
what was the impetus?
What he's dancing around here is the ongoing video project I have to record the complete Bach cello suites in the bathrooms of the finest concert halls. And
they are bathrooms of concert halls?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought they were just bathrooms.
No, they're only bathrooms of the finest concert halls. The idea was I started, practicing Bach more. I was kind of rediscovering it a number of years ago, and I had, started playing with this strap, started moving around, and I would just wander around the apartment while I practiced. So this is interesting, where the physical change of how I played cello opened up a new artistic project. I just inevitably, day after day, found myself in the bathroom playing Bach, because the acoustics are just it's like a mini cathedral right there in your house. People pay tons of money to record in nice recording studios, and we have bathrooms right there. All the hard surfaces make for a really natural reverb. So I just kept doing that, and then eventually, when you're on the road, like with Silk Road Ensemble, we're in these nice performing arts centers. Oftentimes we'll have these nice big dressing rooms, so anyway, I decided that I would record all the Bach cello suites.
So instead of the
bathrooms.
tiny desk concert, it's basically the tiny bathroom concert.
And so I'm almost done. There's 36 movements of the Bach cello suites. I've recorded 34 of them.
That's ironic that they're called movements.
Sometimes I refer to them as installments. Boy. It's a real place. So if you want to see these videos, you can go to bachinthebathroom.com.
I came here a little early, and I saw you teaching the kids here. Education is a big part of what you do. And one thing that Ron and I have noticed with a lot of the musicians that we talk to, a lot of them teach. A lot of them put a great deal of emphasis on music education and how important it is to everybody's growth, children especially, but certainly to old guys like me and Ron. So I wonder if you could talk about your thoughts on that and what you're doing right now. That's kind of special in that.
Sure.
genre.
Yeah, so Indian Hills is a really great institution that I've been hearing about for years through my good friend Pete Robbins, who is here and helping to run things here.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
That was really tepid applause, by the way.
My good friend Pete Robbins.
There you go.
I think, for me, education, teaching, never really felt that separate from performing. I've been doing it as long as I've been a professional, and I think ultimately, teaching and performing are two sides of the same coin at their best, which is essentially you're just sharing something that you're passionate about with people. As a musician, I've had teachers throughout my childhood. And so a lot of musicians, our primary role models are often our teachers. And so it feels very natural to want to teach. The things that I'm passionate about professionally, cross-cultural collaboration, creativity, connecting to communities, being able to explore that educationally is really important. I got to do a workshop with the kids here this afternoon. Yeah, so I teach, I run music programs in the summer. I run a string camp on the beach in Florida called Mike Block String Camp. And for Silk Road Ensemble, I run a world music program called the Global Musician Workshop. And I think apart from just teaching and sharing knowledge, those camp opportunities are times where you're really building the community, amongst both teachers and participants. And it's really a meaningful part of my life.
When it comes to teaching kids, I know you're going to be in China in several weeks?
Yeah,
in January. How does that element change when you're in that cross-cultural environment and you want to teach? How that may contrast with here?
First step of teaching in another culture, learn how to count to 4. So like in China, it's really helpful for me to be say, 1, 2, 3, and get them going, But also you want to learn how to say, sounds good. And sounds bad. Those are essentially the two things you need to know.
Right.
But it's true, so much of what we're trying to transfer doesn't need spoken language, really tapping into the sound and the feelings.
I would imagine there'd be a lot of body language too.
For sure. Although it is true that luckily a lot of people speak English, so I've never encountered a huge problem of literally not being able to communicate with a student in any way. Yeah.
So we have time for one more question. Do you have anything specific you want to ask, Ron, or do you want me to take it?
We do 2 half questions?
Yeah, go, half.
Well, I'm really amazed in your recovery after you've been very outspoken, or you talked about your accident, and I wonder how that changed any of your writing style, or probably, sorry, it's a whole question.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can kind of set the scene quickly. So when I was living in New York, there was an unfortunate night where I was hit by a car, a cab, while crossing the street. And you probably can't see it from where you're sitting, but I lost half of my teeth, and I broke my cheek, nose, and ribs. Essentially, everything you see here is robotic. And I am half machine now.
You're still very handsome, though.
Well, you should have seen me before.
Right.
So essentially, the separate complication of a lot of insurance issues. I was unable to actually get fully recovered for 3.5 years. Yeah. So I spent 3.5 years missing teeth, half of them.
And you sing?
Well, yeah. So when I sing, all you see is tongue, and it was a whole thing. I was writing songs during that time. Yeah. Before I got the teeth back, I recorded an album while missing the teeth of songs I had written while missing the teeth, and that album's called Brick by Brick. Yeah. And it's an old album now, but so the accident happened almost 10 years ago. Everybody has that story. Everybody's got something that kind of shook their status quo. So that was what did it for me, and I'm very lucky to have been able to recover somewhat fully. I don't really know what I lost mentally, because you can never really know that. But yeah, I feel really lucky that I was fixable ultimately. And
you certainly built up more than Brick by Brick ever since Juilliard and past that, and we can't wait to hear you perform for us tonight. So we thank you very much.
Guys.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, guys.
Before we get on to a portion of Mike's performance, we would like to tell you a little bit about Indian Hill Music. Indian Hill Music of Littleton is a nonprofit music education and performance center with instructional programs for all ages, professional symphony, chamber, and jazz concerts, and community engagement initiatives that provide access to music for everyone in our region. Learn more about them at indianhillmusic.org.
This was a big surprise when you kissed me that night. I think you saved my life. As hard as I tried, never felt as right to travel through this life with no one by my side. Now I can finally breathe. Yes, now I can finally breathe. Yes, now I can finally breathe. Yes, now I can finally breathe. Whoa, 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 whoa,
We would like to thank Susan Rendazzo, Peter Robbins, Catherine Coleman, and all the kind people at Indian Hill Music for their invitation and hospitality. You can learn more about them at indianhillmusic.com. We would also, of course, like to thank Mike Block, who is a fantastic musician, a wonderful guy, and human being. You can find Mike at mikeblockmusic.com. And for all the cellists who would like to run around the stage with their instrument, you can purchase the Block strap at cellostrap.com. Go to abovethebasement.com where you can join us on Patreon, sign up for our newsletter, listen and subscribe to our podcast, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look at all the nice pictures we post on Instagram. We are everywhere. On behalf of Ronnie and myself, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and remember, Boston music, like its history, is unique. How would you like to join us in creating great conversations that inspire and connect? Patreon is a membership platform that provides a way for creators like us to build relationships and provide exclusive experiences to subscribers or patrons. We have been self-financed since we got off the ground in June of 2016, but in order to continue to fully invest all we can in each episode, we need your patronage. For more information, please go to patreon.com/abovethebasement.